higher education? Is that something that's ever on your mind?
It was kind of, I wondering whether to not to do it or not. Because during the PLC course, I also did apply for college. My lecturer in the PLC course wanted me to go to college, but I applied for the apprenticeship firstly, and college was going to be kind of like an option too for me. But now that I'm in it, like I wouldn't change it for the world. I didn't always excel at school, so the studying and college assignments didn't really appeal to me as much. But I still have that option to go back to college whenever I feel it's right for me.
And to a student who isn't sure about, how further education kind of differs from higher education, am I right in thinking from what you're saying, it's much more of a hands-on learning process?
Yeah, it is. During the apprenticeship, like even when you're in class, you get to see the inside of a computer, or make changes to, if you were to upgrade a computer, things like that. It is a hands-on experience as well as just learning, which I really, really think is great to get.
Great. And lastly, we often, as I was saying earlier in the introduction, apprenticeships can be quite male-dominated. I'm guessing you're in a sector where you're probably in a minority, are you? And what's that like?
Very much so, yeah. In my class in Selbridge, there is me and there's 10 guys, so I'm the only girl. So for when you're in college, you kind of have to be that one step ahead of the guys, kind of putting your head down and plowing through the work and proving that you should be there. So it kind of gives it a personal task at the same time as you're there to make a mark, so to speak, and trying to pave your way to get other females into the IT.
That's great, Dawn. Listen, that's a really good insight into the kind of the nature of what further education is about. And I'm now joined by Katie Haverty. And Katie, you've recently completed an apprenticeship with Accounting Technicians Ireland, and you're now working in the National Gallery of Ireland, if I have that correct. Would you tell me a bit about why you chose an apprenticeship route for you and why it worked for you?
So I left school in 2016, and I went straight to Maynooth to do business and accounting. And no, don't get me wrong, I love the course and I love the course content, but the large lectures and the travelling to Maynooth from Dublin for one lecture a day, it just killed me. Like I was only in college for like 12 hours, and then I was had to work part-time as well on the weekend. So it was just, for me, I just didn't really like it. Like I didn't feel like it was on a personal level, and I couldn't really make friends in the large classrooms, and I just didn't really like the whole environment of university personally. So then I just left Maynooth after a year, and I went to work in Tesco, where I got the opportunity to be a payroll clerk. And I think that's where I kind of got my love for accounting, and I was like, you know what, I'm actually quite good at this. So I done the payroll in Tesco for like a year, and then I just came across the apprenticeship one day, and I was like, you know what, I might as well apply for that, because going back to college full time, like in university, was never really an option for me, because I'd been working and I'd learned how to drive. I just could never go back to trying to go to college full time and work part time. It was just never for me. So I applied for the apprenticeship and said, you know what, I might as well go for it and see what happens. And it was the best thing I ever done, because not only are you learning about, like, in the college part, but you're getting the on the job experience. So at the end of the 2 years, you're becoming more employable to employers, because you have the 2 years experience, rather than just like the 3 or 4 years from university, where all you know is your double entry, where you don't know how to like adapt it into everyday work life and into a business. But yeah, I definitely was the best thing I ever done.
And, of course, the big difference, as Dawn was saying as well earlier, is when you are doing an apprenticeship like that, of course, you can earn and learn at the same time. Would you talk to me about, what, in your case, that you're able to earn in your first and second year as an apprentice?
Okay, so the minimum any employer can give you a year, the salary a year is €19,890, but it's up to the discretion of your employer. So it depends on what they want to pay you. Like on average, the girls and boys in my class, we were all kind of getting from like 22,000 to 25,000 in our first year salary, which is great. Like, and you're then in the second year it goes up. You could get bonuses. It just depends on what company or what industry you're in. But then your college tuition is fully paid for as well, and you also get 3 weeks study leave for your exams. So you have exams in May, and you're entitled to the 3 week study leave from your employer, and they have to pay you, which is great. And then if you need additional support, you have like a college mentor in college, and then you have a workplace mentor, which can help you like through things if you're finding one aspect of the course difficult, or if you need more time to study, and then at the same time you're only working. You're in college on a Monday, and then you're working Tuesday to Friday, so you still have your weekends to yourself to do your bit of studying and to like have your social life or do whatever you want to do, like live a little. So it's good that you don't have to take up a part-time job with it. Whereas most students that are studying full time would have to take up a part-time job on the weekends and that.
So it gives you that really good flexibility then, and also you're not suffering a financial hit, quite the opposite. You're able to make some money as well, which is great. And what qualification then did you get at the end of that? And does that give you options as well, whether in Ireland or abroad?
Yeah, so it's a level 6 QQI qualification, and it gives you so many different options. So if I want, I can go into like third year in DCU or Maynooth or anywhere if I want to, or else it gives you exemptions for ACCA and ACA, which is the Chartered Accountant exams, which makes you like, so I'm like a qualified accountant technician. So the next step is just to get like qualified charter accountant. So that I can like travel and stuff with it, and it gives you 4 exemptions from the 13 exams in the ACCA, and then I think it gives you 3 exemptions or 4 exemptions from ACA as well, which is great. And then there's loads of the other ones like there's like a tax technician, a management accountant technician thing you can go into. It just like opens up so much.
Great. So that's a really good platform then, from what I hear, for future progression. Katie, thank you for that. I should say to anyone who is watching this, do send in your questions to us and we'll be able to put them to our panellists. And on that note, I'm joined by Natasha Kinsella, and she's the Dublin Regional Skills Forum Manager. And Natasha, I know you are the guru when it comes to this area, and you know everything that there is around apprenticeships and the skills demand that there is out there. What would you say, to students, particularly young women who are kind of considering apprenticeships as an option for them? How do they know that this is the sector that might be the one for them?
Hi, Carl, and thanks for the opportunity. I certainly wouldn't say I'm a guru, but what I do love, I suppose, is the opportunity to promote apprenticeship as a choice. And again, from Dawn's story and Katie's story, that's the key thing for students looking in on this. There is lots of choice. And whatever choice that you do make, find out the information about what's available in apprenticeship. And particularly because of this session focusing on women in apprenticeship, it is supposed to dispel that myth that apprenticeship is just for men. I mean, traditionally, when we talk to people and you talk about apprenticeship, like you said, Carl, at the start, they tend to think of an apprentice, male dominated, where they're on the construction site with the hard hat. But over the last number of years, as Katie and Dawn has described, they've both come through the new offerings based on the expansion of apprenticeship and that plan to expand. But the craft traditional apprenticeships still exist as well. And we're trying to encourage women to look at all the available options. I mean, at this stage, there's about 55 apprenticeship offerings and looking at more growing into 2021 as that expansion plan that I know Minister Harris talked about earlier on in one of the sessions. I mean, there's lots of options from all different types of sectors, covering logistics, hospitality, financial, recruitment even is the latest one that was actually developed. I think the key thing, though, to get a message across to those out there looking in is if we look at 2015, there was about 26 women signed up to apprenticeship. Now in 2020, there's 730. So it just shows you the evidence is there that certainly the role of apprenticeships is for everyone, and it can be a choice for anyone looking at those options. But I'd encourage the students to maybe look through apprenticeship.ie, look at all the offerings. And even on that website, you know, Katie and Dawn are the real role models on the panel today. There are lots of ambassadors that represent the sectors of apprenticeships that they undertook. So they're all available. Their stories are available. I think that's what's key for students, to hear from somebody's real life story, to demonstrate what it is, how they got into it, what it looks like, what they got involved in, who they're working for, and the pathway that it took them. And like the ladies have said, it doesn't stop there. There's lifelong learning opportunities throughout your career. So there's lots of options to continue that lifelong learning piece as well. So yeah.
And could you give me a sense of the type of qualifications you can get at the end of an apprenticeship? Because I know that they can vary dramatically from sector to sector.
Absolutely. I mean, generally off the qualifications, they start from level 6 right through to level 9. I mean, I remember when I left school and I started a PLC course like Dawn. I mean, who would have thought you could do an apprenticeship to a PhD level? Who would have ever thought that? It's a fantastic opportunity, and it just shows you, for students out there thinking, you know, that maybe the full-time college route isn't for them, they can still do it by choosing an apprenticeship and actually achieving the same level of qualification. Certainly at this stage in my career, wouldn't you consider a PhD level of an apprenticeship? The beauty of it is that the connection of the employer base is still there. So you get to work and earn and learn while you're doing it over the course of your career cycle, which is fantastic.
And you are, of course, the Dublin Regional Skills Forum Manager. So I'm sure you are across, you know, how the pandemic has really shaken not just our lives, but the economy and also skills gaps, you know. And could you give us a sense, you know, what industries are going to be thriving and where there are most likely to be job opportunities or apprenticeship opportunities over the coming months and years?
Yeah, I think we can all see the impact that COVID has had on many different sectors. In particular, hugely impacted is the likes of tourism and hospitality, retail, some elements of construction. But there are sectors that are thriving because of the impacts of COVID. You know, when you look at biopharma, even the logistics side, I know logistics have a stand at higher options today. So too do a lot of the others. There are huge opportunities, and we also see the employers are still and currently now recruiting for the next intake of those apprenticeships. But I think for those sectors that have been impacted, I mean, ICT is a particular area that there's maintained huge gaps still exist, and the apprenticeship route allows individuals to skill themselves through an apprenticeship type in those areas that certainly will drive opportunities even into the future. Outside of even COVID, if you look at the future world of work, there's lots of options for individuals. The apprenticeship provides most of those options, but even as the apprenticeship expansion comes, we are seeing conversations already in new areas of apprenticeships. But going back to maybe some of the sectors, I think, you know, if you take retail and hospitality both offer currently apprenticeships, but there are new developments even in that sector that will be developed in 2021. And I think the big key thing at this stage, and even the sectors will admit to this, is even in the downturn, what they are now looking to do as things come back, the upskilling piece is a critical piece to ensure the economy drives forward. And apprenticeship allows that offering. So as businesses reopen and come back and develop over the coming years, there is options of apprenticeship to allow students and attract students to those key sectors. I think the biggest thing, and it has definitely supported the development of the apprenticeship, I know Minister Harris mentioned it earlier on, is that continuation of the incentive package for the employers. And what we're trying to do at the moment, even in regional skills, at all of the 9 regions, we work and link with employers and the educational providers to look at where the gaps lie and develop out of that provisions that are relevant, that allow upskilling and reskilling for all individuals through their career life cycle. And some of those developments obviously are in the apprenticeship space, but they also include further education and higher education. I mean, only recently, even the new announcements of modular or undergraduate expansion has been announced. That allows huge opportunity for everyone at any stage, either working or not currently working, to upskill and reskill and potentially look at other options of career entry points. So there's lots of options out there based on the impacts and to overcome those impacts of COVID-19 in particular.
Great, Natasha. Listen, thanks for that. And we're getting questions in from students online. And there's one question here from a student asking, is there a deadline for applying for apprenticeships in the same way that there's a deadline, for example, for the CEO system? Is there any particular deadline, Natasha, or does it depend on the sector?
It depends on the apprenticeship offering because there's different intakes at different times, and that's the good thing about it. There are certain apprenticeships that start, let's say, in a September timeframe, some that start in a January timeframe. It depends on the format of the apprenticeship. So what I would say is for students looking to see, go onto the website and the particular sector one they're interested in. There is on each apprenticeship, there's a network manager, and the network manager would be able to advise and also even allow opportunities to connect with employers. So obviously the key thing for students considering apprenticeship is they have to have a connection with an employer. So the network manager of that apprenticeship would be able to advise about the application, about the deadline, what's required, and what employers are registered to take on apprenticeships or apprentices in that sector, but also maybe look at connections to employers who are looking to recruit. On the new website, there's actually a jobs portal where employers are now actually advertising. So that would also be a key trigger to identify key dates for students who are looking at particular apprenticeships as well.
Great. And we're getting a couple of questions as well around areas where apprenticeships may be available. And we've a student asking, are there any apprenticeships available in the healthcare sector or medicine or psychiatry? Is there anything to your knowledge around that? And if you don't know, I don't expect you to know off the top of your head, where's the best place to look?
Yeah, the only one I can say at the moment, and I know it was mentioned earlier on by Mary Liz Trant, who manages the whole section in apprenticeship within Solus. There is discussions ongoing in relation to healthcare specifically. But again, for new areas, what we would encourage, and this is part of our role as well, where gaps maybe exist, the regional managers allow conversations that happen between the employers and providers. And in the event that an apprenticeship doesn't exist, that conversation could be had to look at areas. But it has to be a sustainable one, there has to be scale, and there's a consortia that's developed that's driven very much by the sector. So that's quite important. But again, what I would say to students is, there are other options as well in terms of other areas. So there is traineeships that are also offered by Solus in areas that maybe not are apprenticeships. So it's just looking at some of the best options that might suit each of the students. But certainly there will be, based on the new apprenticeship plan, there will be new areas up and coming for development based on gaps.
Lovely. Question on a topic we referenced earlier, which is can it be intimidating for women in male-dominated sectors? I know, Dawn, you kind of answered that earlier, but Katie, did you have that issue at all? Were you in a sector which was very male-dominated, and was it an issue for you?
Not really. There was just a mix in my college class. Like, it was kind of half boys, half girls, and I didn't feel intimidated. Everyone kind of got on grand, like, and there's a lot of like age diversity. So like the youngest in my class was say 18 after leaving school, and then the eldest could have been like nearly in her 40s. Like, it just depends on who's there. But no, I didn't feel intimidated, and don't ever feel intimidated. You're there to learn, and everyone's on the same path as you. So I wouldn't, even in my job, there's only one male and the rest of us are girls, and I don't even think he would feel intimidated by all of us. It's just because everyone's there to learn and get on with their job and their work. I don't think it's that intimidating.
Good. And another question from a student asking, how likely is it that I will actually get a job at the end of this? And Dawn, I know you're in a position, you're still completing your apprenticeship. How hopeful are you that you'll be able to get a job at the end of this?
Well, I'm really hopeful, and I'm kind of praying nearly that the company that have sponsored me throughout the apprenticeship will keep me on for, even if it's just another year, to get that extra little bit of experience with them. But I know for me in the apprenticeship I'm doing, before you finish the last 6 months, you do have a meeting or a talk with the representative from FIT, your manager and mentor from your work placement, to see where you are and regards being kept on. Or I know for me, for the FIT council, they will kind of they have my CV, so they will help me create a CV based on the experience I've done and help me look for other jobs in the area that where I can excel.
Great, perfect. And Natasha, there's a question here from someone saying, their parents are telling them that college is really where they should be looking at, and not to look at further education or even just consider it as a last gasp option. What do you say to that? To students whose parents are still thinking, maybe with outdated notions, that higher education is the be all and the end all.
Okay, I suppose maybe given the panel, I might bring it back to my own experience. When I finished school again, wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I knew the sector I wanted to get involved in, but my parents were very much of the opinion, at the time, I suppose, in terms of the finances and costs for it, they were of the opinion, go out and I suppose get a job, but equally start a qualification, but not maybe full time. And I think the key for me was, because I started out as a PLC student, and again, the conversation I had with my professor was, what are the pathways and the routes? At the end of the day, further education can present huge opportunity for anybody that gets a foundation of an insight into a sector that they're looking to potentially develop a career in. I mean, the reality is, for me, while I started at PLC level, I went on to I've done 2 main primary degrees, I've done 2 masters. So I never would have thought, when I had that conversation with my parents, would I even at that point continue on to higher education? But I did. But you don't stop there just because you do one qualification. That's the beauty of the system. There are options, pathways, and access to allow it to continue regardless of, where you're at in your life cycle or your career. There's consideration to go and gain a qualification at any level, be it at further education or higher education at any different stage. And I think that's what's important, even for parents, is the changing world of work. you need to ensure that you do continue to gain those skills and qualifications, because the roles that you undertake at the start are very different as you progress on your career. So you never and shouldn't ever stop learning. That notion of lifelong learning needs to be instilled in every student. And for parents out there, it's important that they equally look at the options to help and encourage their children to do the same.
Great. Lovely, Natasha. Well, listen, that's a really good insight into apprenticeships and the diversity of options that you do have. And I think that's really instructive, I think, for anybody who's thinking of their career and study options. You know, it never stops, as Natasha said. It doesn't stop at the gates of the school or the entrance to college or at your apprenticeship. We're all going to be learning in the era in which we live in. Listen, Natasha, Dawn and Katie, thank you very much for your time. Thank you for sharing your experiences. I hope that's been of real help and value to you in your career and study options. So do look around the Higher Options portal. Do ask questions. That's why everyone is here and manning the virtual desks, and hopefully they'll be able to shed light and help you focus on what the best options are for you over the coming months and years. Thank you.